Chapter 4. Promises at a Picnic. From here on, please work very hard towards striving for the shinobi path. The Hokage preached. And I would like you to bring further prosperity to Konohagakure. No matter which world you in, the opening ceremony speech will always be long and boring. The air was dull and I'm certain none of the children here understand a word he's saying. The faces of those around us said as much. The entry ceremony for the academy had sneaked up on me, I had completely forgotten about it. Training with Sasuke was amazing. He was really good at taijutsu and shuriken, though with a brother like Itachi, it was expected. Speaking of the dark and broody Uchiha, or rather never shutting up about him. I am serious, Sasuke talked more about him than he did himself. Itachi this, big brother that, wanna be like big brother, he's so cool. I smile politely through it all, encouraging him further whenever I can. Why? Sasuke has the most beautiful smile when talking about his brother, and I was addicted. I looked around to see my mother paste a patient smile on her face. She was tired, father had been a handful the night before. He wanted to attend the ceremony but had a mission to attend. He whined like a child until mother said she would show him via genjutsu. I had perked up at the mention and asked her to teach me. I had never been denied that quickly in any of my lives. She said something along the lines of you should grow up first, and be a normal girl before becoming a kunoichi, a female ninja. Needless to say, I began to whine harder than father and so she had a long night. I spotted baby Shikamaru and Koji in the corner of my eye. Ino was stealing glances behind me, or more accurately, to Sasuke, who stood behind me. He had wanted to stand near someone he knows, and aside from Naruto and Hinata, who were already in the academy, I was the only other option besides going in alone. While I was grateful for his calm chakra near me, I wasn't so much the attention. At the end of the ceremony, our parents interacted with the teachers. If I didn't know any better, I would say it was almost like a normal school. Suzume was the current Kunoichi Academy teacher and friends with my mother, go figure. She was a beautiful woman with long curly black hair and glasses. She wore a red lipstick that gave her a mystic vibe expected of a kunoichi. She appeared confident enough in her looks and abilities as a kunoichi, which I suppose explain why she was selected to teach the art. She's such a lovely young girl, Suzume praised. Really pretty too, you really lucked out. Mother turned away to hide her grimace at her misplaced words, not her comment about her relationship with father but about me being a lovely little girl. I dressed in pastel colors, yes, but I was far from a lovely young girl. Mother had been excited to have a baby girl but soon realized I wasn't normal and would never be. I was friends with two noble houses and the village outcast, all of which made up my only friends in the village. There was Ichiraku, but that was more my favorite fast food restaurant. Mother has no clue how much she lucked out with me. The original Sakura was shy and timid, only having one friend, Ino. Speaking of which, hello, I'm Ino Yamanaka, it's nice to meet you, Sakura. She gave a small bow and a huge smile, not know how her speaking to me was a bitch slap from Faith. I had tried my hardest to avoid her since the beginning. I tried even harder after becoming friends with Sasuke. If she found out about our relationship, let alone my crush on him, well, let's just say shinobi children are dangerous when they want to be. Breaking off their friendship was the most merciful thing to do. I don't think I would be so merciful though. It's nice to meet you too, Ino, I said politely, making note of how our parents distanced themselves from us. Mother was pulling a push her out of the nest and hope for the best. The tactic only worked with Naruto because he was Naruto. I don't want to get involved with Ino, you can't make me. Ino was a very unusual girl. She had confidence unbefitting a 6-year-old. She reminded me a bit of Naruto with her platinum blonde hair and light blue eyes, but that's where the similarities end. Where Naruto was timid or overbearing, Ino oozed confidence that was unbefitting a 6-year-old. She was very friendly and a people person. Her father was not only the head of the noble Yamanaka clan but also head of the Intelligent Division. The Intelligent Division was a division of shinobis that specialized in gathering information. They were the interrogation department of the Konoha shinobis. Ino, being his only child and heir to their clan, made her intelligence, even at this age, a necessity. She was smart, beautiful, had an air of confidence and was from a noble family. You can understand why she is so popular. She had many friends already as it was, all had a confident air around them, though it was apparent Ino was the leader from the way they stood behind her. Being friends with a noble clan was something all shinobis greedy for power aimed for. They would send their children to interact with the noble clans to gain favor with them. No matter the world, there was always going to be those that seek to take advantage of others. The children might not know why their parents had pushed them to be friends with Ino, but I had no intention of following that trend. While I doubt mother would try to use me in such a way, what with me being friends with two noble clans as it was, there was a limit to how many connections you could have before you start attracting attention. The plan was simple: have me interact with a normal girl my age and I would become more girly to fit in. It was a ploy to get me to see that I wasn't normal. Had I not been fully aware of my actions, it might have worked. There were so many problems with this plan. One was the various jonins and jonins that gave me glances and glare. Don't like that I was friends with Naruto. I made sure to glare at anyone that meets my eyes. There was also the Hokage, who was currently mingling with the parents and students. He was stealthy, but I got his quick glances at me. He too had taken notice of my friendship with Naruto. While not hostile, yet, he watched me cautiously, trying to determine my intentions. If I messed up, I wonder if I would disappear one day. Despite all these obvious threats to my life, the main reason I was staying away from Ino was standing just a bit behind me, burning holes in Ino's head. Sasuke Uchiha, the boy who had stolen my heart with a single glance, was displeased with me talking to Ino for as long as I had. We had made plans to stick together until we could meet up with Naruto and Hinata and have a picnic. Ino was eating into our playtime. I was well aware that Ino has a crush on Sasuke, while not as deadly as mine, it was there. Should we become friends, our mutual love for him would, as it did with the original Sakura, ruin our friendship. I wasn't fond of misleading people and I wasn't about to share my Sasuke, so the only real choice is to not be friends, to begin with. Impatience rolled of Sasuke in waves, even Fugaku was giving him incredulous looks. I glanced at my mother looking at me expectantly. She really wanted me to be friends with Ino, but there was just no room. She would be the third wheel for sure. With a sigh, I turned back to Ino in time to hear her ask if I wanted to come with her and her friends. It was the perfect opportunity to end this before it began. "I'm sorry, Ino," I lied through my teeth. "I already promised to hang out with my friends today." That part wasn't so much a lie. With the tilt of my head I gave my best smile. "Maybe next time." There would be no next time if I could help it. I waved as I ran over to where Sasuke was now pouting. I smiled apologetically at him. I received gasps from Ino's gang. Yes, I was in fact friends with the handsome Uchiha. "What took you so long?" he asked, still pouting. He was so cute when he tried to be mad at me. "I'm sorry, Sasuke," I said, taking his hand in mine, getting even more gasps. "Okay, I was doing this on purpose." I displayed my best puppy eyes, clasping his hand to my chest. "Please forgive me." He was a sucker for puppy eyes, having not grown up around younger siblings. Naruto could beat me at this any day, but for now, Sasuke was weak to my charms. Fine. He stuttered, looking away and blushing. Fugaku signed in disappointment and I smirked at him, giving a raised brow. "As if you could fare any better," the look said, and he looked away so smoothly you would mistake it for me just looking at something that caught his eye. Not taking his hand from my grip, Sasuke huffed. We gave a bow to Fugaku and walked to the school for the first introduction classes. I could feel the eyes on my back, and the target I just put there. The introduction class was, to put it nicely, brainwashing. They told us how great Konoha is and how honorable it is to serve and protect it as a ninja. They taught us how honorable it is to die for your village. Of course, they didn't outright say it, but they did plant it in our head. It wouldn't work on me, of course, as I'm not a child. A glance to Sasuke showed he wasn't listening. What a delinquent. We were given a long break to eat and mingle with the other students, form bonds, they said. I often wondered where Naruto got his whole bonds are important thing from. Now I know, and I'm not impressed. They are literally shoving their logic down our throats. If I tried hard enough, I could probably remember my world going the same things with morals. We found a nice spot under a tree with a swing that was a bit away from everyone else. Sakura-chan. I was taken out of my thoughts by Naruto's call. He was running at top speed towards us, Hinata barely keeping up. He crashed into me, causing us to tumble to the ground. He held me in a tight hug even as I groaned in annoyance. He chuckled into my stomach as I brushed his hair in response to his greeting. I hadn't been able to play with him for the past few months because of his time in the academy, something about graduating early so he could hang out with me more. He had tried to drag Hinata into his scheming, but Hayashi was having none of it. Hinata bowed in greeting to Sasuke and looked apologetically at me. I sat up, Naruto still fastened around my waist. That was a losing battle I wasn't going to fight. I leaned on the tree, having little mobility, with Naruto attracted to me. He didn't say anything as Sasuke and Hinata got the picnic ready. Through the silence, I absently continued to stroke his hair, humming a lullaby mother had once sung to me. Sasuke looked over at us and frowned deeply. "How long do you plan to stay like that?" he asked. I looked up at him, a bit confused at his question. Was there something wrong? "Oh, that's because Naruto hasn't seen Sakura-chan in a while," Hinata defended Naruto. "He just misses her, that's all." Her voice was low when she spoke the last part. Was she trying to convince him of herself? "He acting like a child," Sasuke muttered, doubting. "You're one to talk." Naruto released me and stood so quickly it left me dizzy. "I'm gonna graduate early, you'll see," he exclaimed, to which I merely smiled, knowing it wasn't in the cards. "Why do you want to graduate early?" Sasuke asked curiously. "You fell right into that rabbit hole." "I'm gonna become Hokage," Naruto declared proudly. "That's why I'm gonna graduate early and everyone will acknowledge me." It was something I heard 1,000 times, but something about him saying it to his best friend and future lover made me smile. It was fun knowing things others didn't. You could come up with so many inside jokes. Sasuke, bless his soul, was in awe at this, even as he pouted a bit at being outshined. "What about you, Sasuke?" Naruto asked. "What are you going to be?" Sasuke turned away, blushing a bit. "I'm going to become a police like my father," he said. Naruto looked to me for an explanation. I chuckled. "The police are shinobis tasked with keeping the peace, enforcing the law and protecting the people of our village, including the other shinobis," I explained. "Because of this, it requires strong and good-hearted shinobis to function. After all, you need strong shinobi to keep other shinobis in check." I added the last part for Sasuke's pride, but it was true to some degree. With the sharingan, the police force, which was mostly made up of uchiha, was a force to be reckoned with. Naruto was of course impressed and looked at Sasuke in a different light. His eyes twinkled with admiration and he grinned widely. "That's so cool," he exclaimed. "Then when I become Hokage, you and I can protect the village together." He stretched out his fist to Sasuke, grinning from ear to ear. Sasuke smirked and bumped his fist. "Don't hold me back," he said cockily. For a moment I seen Naruto and Sasuke bumping fist. It was gone as quickly as it came, but it was there. Something strange twisted inside me and I relaxed, even as it felt like butterflies were having a party in my stomach. I stood even as my eyes stung. I blinked away the pain and approached them. "Hey, don't leave us out of this," I said, getting their attention. "We want to protect the village too, right, Hinata?" She jumped at the mention of her name but stood quickly. That's right. I too want to stand beside Naruto-kun. Ah yes, confess, why don't you? Pushing my jealously aside, I bumped my fist with them. Let's always stay together and protect this village. It was a bold declaration, but it was going to be made a reality in the next decade, so. Yes. Hinata said, doing the same. Let's always stay together. She blushed like a madwoman at her own bold words. She obviously wanted to stay by Naruto's side forever, didn't she? Though was I much better? I glanced at Sasuke, who was grinning, passion and determination in his eyes. I too wanted to stand by Sasuke's side forever. I had been worried that Naruto and Sasuke wouldn't get along and I would be forced to choose between them. Seeing them interact with each other like long-lost friends made me so happy. The bushes rustled nearby, causing me to expand my senses. It was a faint presence, but I felt it. I hadn't been on alert all day, so it was easy to miss. We were being watched, not by one but 4 different people. The hardest to sense was like an old treasure chest filled with knowledge. The Hokage, how he hid such an overwhelming chakra, was a secret I wanted in on. The other was a gentle breeze, Fugaku. His stalking was a given. He was overprotective of his son. The next one was my mother, go figures, and the last was. A field of flowers cried out in a hurricane, the skies dark with storm clouds. Someone wasn't happy. Even with their mood changing their chakra, I recognized it. I had just interacted with them after all. Light blue eyes blazed with fury as they peeked through the bushes nearby. Ino Yamanaka had officially made me her enemy. Rivalry route achieved. Fuck my life. Chapter 5. Plus. Love and War. I'm not sure what I was expecting going into the academy, but it wasn't what I got. The academy itself was normal: classrooms, hallways, a gym and an open field for physical activities. There was a nurse's office and a teacher's lounge. See normal. What was unnatural was the lessons being taught and the teachers teaching it. This was an academy aimed to teach children how to be shinobis. If you wanted normal, you'd go to the civilian school. The lesson seemed normal by the name, but quickly proved to be abnormal when put into practice. Math, language, history, PE, taijutsu, ninjutsu, genjutsu and extra classes, shuriken and kunoichi classes. See totally normal, for a shinobi at least. Math class wasn't just addition and algebra. How to set the timer of a paper bomb in Algeria, how to calculate the distance of your enemy in relation to yourself in geometry. Sets was how to group enemies by their attire and behavior. Math had never been more deadly. Language was a little more normal, lessons focusing on how to read and write. They ruined my illustration with lessons on how to understand the Konoha code system. Shinobi sign language and sound code were included. They even went far as to teach us to understand the body language. They taught us the basics of fuinjutsu, like how to identify the purpose of the seal from the kanji writing on it. They did teach us how to make our own. It was a standard issued paper bomb and storage tags. Naruto exiled at this class, having been taught by yours truly. It did worry the teachers, however. They probably didn't want the Demon Fox's host to have too much power. The irony was not lost on me. History was the history, the shinobi, of course. The shinobi creed was created by the sage of Six Path, the god of shinobi. Literally, they worshipped this guy. He had the eyes after all. Not many know what the Rinnegan was, except that was the most powerful dojutsu to ever exist. Only gods and messiahs possessed it. They talked about the village founding, of the Uchiha and Senju-chan's role in it as founders. They didn't even hint at the first and most powerful rogue ninja, Madara Uchiha. They took us to the top of the Hokage Tower when discussing the Hokages. The previous Hokage's faces were carved into the Hokage mountain that stood directly behind the Hokage Tower. The first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, was the founder of the Leaf Village. He had the unique style known as wood style, and many of his tree dubbed Hashirama tree are scattered around the village. The second Hokage Tobirama Senju, Hashirama's younger brother and the founder of the Forbidden Jutsu, he also created the multi-shadow clone jutsu, as skill of which we were to learn the D rank of. The third Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi, student of the previous Hokage and the master of all the element. He learned all chakra, the 5 main chakra natures, fire, water, earth, air and lighting. He was feared on the battlefield and was given the title God of Shinobi. The fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze, the youngest Hokage and the one with the shortest reign. His skills on the battlefield gained him the name Yellow Flash. Many survivors spoke of how his speed was unmatched and untraceable. He died sealing away the 9-tailed fox demon, causing the third to resume his reign as third Hokage. There was subtle looks at Naruto which were met with killer intent. If I wasn't careful, they might realize I know something. Taijutsu fell under PE, in which Irika sensei or a random teacher would pair us off against each other to gauge our skills. Laps around the field and other workout exercises also came with the territory. Sparring lessons were down every week without fail. Your sparring partner was whomever sensei saw fit. Though I did notice sensei pairing noble and shinobi clans against each other. Naruto and Sasuke were often paired against each other, though Sasuke always won. It was an unfair situation. Sasuke trained with a noble clan, a civilian could hope to beat him. The stream of constant losses caused Naruto to strive to beat Sasuke, and thus rivalry was born. Naruto wanted to beat Sasuke and Sasuke wanted to remain unbeaten. It was funny to see the two compete. During track exercise, Naruto and Sasuke would beat the front, having their own race. Sasuke was great with skills, but Naruto had more stamina. When it came to endurance, Naruto claimed victory. I made sure to stick with hinata during their little competition. Only women should stick together and all that, though hinata seemed amused as I was at their antics. Hide and seek, or as the shinobis call it, hunter and rogue ninja, wasatch game we were encouraged to play during recess. The rules were simple. One group would hide and try to avoid the seekers, and the seekers would hunt down to hidden. Once the hunter finds their prey, they are to successfully eliminate them by through shuriken at them. Don't worry though, it's wooden not metal. I cringe at all the things wrong with the game, though exciting. It was another brainwashing tactics to make killing seem normal. Naruto and I were the best at hiding. With his sneaky nature and my sensory abilities, it was almost unfair. I could hunt as well, but I preferred hiding. It gave Sasuke an excuse to come find me. Sasuke, Hinata and Kiba were the best hunters. Sasuke, I imagine, was very good at hunting down his brother to beg him to play with him. Hinata had the byakugan and could see through walls. Kiba as an Inyazuka, a shinobi clan that's well known for their use of ninken, ninja dogs, as fighting companions. They are easily identified by the distinctive red fangs marks on their cheeks. Every member of the clan is given a ninken from a young age to ensure their bond is strong by the time they become shinobis. Much like their companions, the Inyazuka clan have sharp senses. Focusing chakra to their nose, they can track scents like a dog. The more experienced Inyazuka can even track the movement of their target for distance away. Kiba wasn't that skilled, but he could still have Akamaru, his ninken and best friend, mark the targets to make tracking them easier. Knowing what I know, I was sure to be nowhere near Akamaru when he stroked, and even further away from anyone else he marked. I often stopped to wonder how it was a simple game of hide and seek, turned into a strategy game of police and criminal. Ninjutsu class was lessons on D-rank jutsu and only 2, transformation and clone jutsu. Both of which Naruto sucked at. His transformations were disfigured and a little gross. If he turned into me with such horrible skills, I'd beat his to death. It was ironic, the person that struggled the most with the technique was the one that went on to master it, creating a jutsu that left a god stunned. His clones were worst. They were like rage dolls with no proper shade. The chakra he wasted to create those things made me wince. It was leaking out of every jutsu. He was lucky he had enough not to notice the leak, but it still had me wanting to tape it shut. I had started drawing up a seal before I could stop myself. My own attempts ended in failure. My transformations into the third resulted in a mini Hokage. His face and outfit were present, but it was scaled down to my size. I was told it was cute. My attempts at shadow clone was unpleasant. I did the signs and focused the chakra as instructed, but what came out was a husk. It was a mirror image of me, but it was like a doll, unable to stand on its own. It sat leaning on the desk behind us, its head tilted forward and to the side, having no support to hold it. I grimaced as Irika-sensei inspected it. "It looks like you," he said, tilting its head up and looking at its face. Everyone in the room leaned forward to get a look. Irika looked into its dead blinking eye that reminded me of the porcelain dolls from my old life. Sapphire blue eyes, lifeless and unblinking, looked back at me, golden blonde hair framing she smooth pale skin. I looked away from the shadow clone, disturbed by the memory. "Looked good enough," Irika said, getting up. "You only need to breathe some life into it and you'll have mastered it." He smiled at me, the smile of a proud teacher. "Yes, sensei," I said, releasing the technique at last. Genjutsu class was least memory recovering and more confusing, nauseating. In order to cast a genjutsu, one must alter their target's chakra flow. In order to manipulate what their target sees, for example, they must manipulate the chakra going to the eyes. The lessons consisted of learning what genjutsu was and how to dispel it. Most of the time we were trying to figure out if we were in a genjutsu or not. Why was it nauseating? While under a genjutsu I felt like I was being smothered. I officially hated the class, as it was teaching us how to cast a genjutsu jutsu and how to see through it. I skipped. I could tell when I was under a genjutsu, no need to torture myself. I didn't very much care for someone's chakra trying to influence my own. It felt unpleasant. Shuriken class were Sasuke's favorite. Itachi excelled at, well, everything, but Sasuke mostly saw him train with Kunao and Shuriken. He wanted to please his father and surpass his brother, and as you would suspect, both he and Naruto made it into a competition. I could have sworn I heard Guy Sensei yell, "That's the power of youth." I wouldn't be surprised if it really was him. The academy was right next to the Hokage Tower after all. The Hokage Tower was not only where the Hokage's office was located, but also the home base for many shinobi departments and large empty conference rooms. The mission desk was responsible for receiving and appointing missions, as well as client pay for its completion. There was a constant traffic of shinobi going to and fro. Guy Sensei being among them was very plausible. Outside of regular classes there was kunoichi class, where only female students were required to attend. This was the only time I was separated from Naruto and Sasuke. We had been joined at the hip since being placed in the same class. In kunoichi classes we were taught about other cultures and how skills such as flower arranging will help them to blend in during an infiltration mission. Our job as women was support. We took the mission that didn't require physical strength. It was insulating. Hinata was the only one I could take with me to the class, and thank God for that, because in this class I was surrounded by enemies. You see, having Sasuke as such a close friend didn't help my popularity with the girls. Being separated from Sasuke and placed in a den of his fans who hated me was surprisingly unamusing. I thought being cornered by enemies would be exciting, but it only served to bring back old memories from my previous life. Hate filled their eyes, a snarl on their lips. They focused the stare of content on. It was while in kunoichi class that the bullying started. Big forehead, they teased. Why would Sasuke even hang out with a billboard forehead like you? They all took cracks at my forehead. There was nothing else to fault. I was good at most things. I had an age advantage. Sakura was a brilliant girl with exceptional chakra control. Having memory of my past life was a blessing and a curse. Even though there were little things about me to insult, it didn't stop them from complaining. They ranted about all the reasons I wasn't good enough for Sasuke. Something, Sasuke is too good for me. Something, I'm too ugly. I toned out. It was getting annoying and hitting too close to home. Their eyes were cold, their words even colder. The whole world was a winter storm of hatred. Sakura-chan, Hinata woke me from the horrible memory. I smiled reassuringly. It's fine, Hinata, in the end I'm the one by Sasuke's side, I said with a shrug. It wasn't just me being smug, it was Faith. When they realized their words didn't work on me, they turned on Hinata. Hinata was a soft-spoken girl and didn't like confrontation, so when they began to tease her for her unusual eyes, she could do nothing but break down and cry. 3 girls went home with black eyes that day. While I was fine with them bullying me, I wouldn't stand for them hurting my friends. Once this repeated for a while with them getting a beating courtesy of me every time they teased her. They resorted to their feminine charm. 3 boys I didn't recognize suddenly showed up and began to pick on us. It was wise to use knowledge from our kunoichi class. Suzume had taught us to use our words and eyes to get what we want done without having to lift a finger. Unfortunately for them, Sasuke was not in range and I was missing his calming chakra. I was not in the mood. Not lifting a finger, I released the most potent killing intent I could muster, which was a lot since I was considering it. The boys begun to tremble, slowly backing away. If I had stopped at that, their mentality might have been saved, but I wasn't feeling merciful. I cast a genjutsu on them, might as well get some practice in. Ina appeared above me like a giant. She loomed over me, her hands on either side of me. She roared a lion's roar and they screamed. Running away in pure terror, they rushed out of the room, drawing the eyes of those they passed. Monster! They cried. Sasuke and Naruto stepped through the door the boys exited through. What's their problem? Sasuke asked. Had they pee their pants? Naruto laughed. Seeing Sasuke's face made me feel 1,000 times better, his chakra rushing over my senses. I ran up to them and hugged Sasuke while petting Naruto's head. Hey Sakura-chan. Naruto greeted before frowning. You okay? I am now, I said, rubbing my cheek on Sasuke's. Getting hisses from the girls, I gave them a death glare, making them shy away. Hey Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun, Hinata greeted with a bow. Everything continued as normal after that, or so I thought. The next day Naruto had on bandages. He grinned through it all, telling us it was nothing and how it was manly to receive bruises. Hinata said nothing through the whole exchange and I got suspicious. During kunoichi class I asked her to explain what Naruto would not say. She soon broke and told me what happened. A group of boys were mocking her eyes, calling her a freak when Naruto came along to defend her. He got his ass handed to him for his troubles. He was outnumbered. That was the only reason I didn't make plans to lecture him on his bad form. I taught him how to fight, how dare he lose, and in front of Hinata too. Who? Was the only thing I said, and Hinata sighed. The culprits were academy students. It was the middle of kunoichi class, so the boys were having PE classes. I spotted the ones matching Hinata's description and approached. Irika, I noticed, was watching me cautiously. I was a girl outside of class after all. Hello boys, I greeted, my tone sickeningly sweet. My smile was a closed eye one, but with killing intent leaking out of me I was in vain. They looked at me confused and horrified for a moment. Before spotting Hinata hiding behind a pillar behind me, they formed their own conclusion. What do you want? Their leader snarled. I had to look up into his face. His had a black eye that made my smile satisfied. Naruto had done some damage after all. I was curious of your reason for picking on the cutie over there, I said, pointing at Hinata. They looked at her and she retreated further behind the pillar. She's a freak, he said. She's been here for quite some time and you've never seemed to see these factors before. What changed? Though I still smiled, my voice was serious and stern. He narrowed his eyes on me, then smirked. She's hanging out with that monsters, he said, smiling proudly at his witty remark. It was a blur. On minute we were standing, the next I had him pinned to a tree. He tried to pry my hands from his neck, but I only dig my nails in deeper. It was one thing to have someone glare at Naruto, but to outright call him a monster was asking for death. Those words hurt him, I wouldn't let him feel pain, I'd destroy anything that caused him pain. I gritted my teeth as the boy couched. Irika was making my way to me, I needed to calm down or I would kill him. The boys around her were frozen with fear, my killing intent was rolling of me in waves. I'm going to ask you again, why did you start shit? I growled like a mama bear. And if I'm not satisfied with your answer? I glared at him, my eyes were wild, my treat unsaid, there would be hell to pay. Strong chakra signatures popped up on my radar, Jonin level. I didn't take my eyes off my prey but did loosen my grip so he could speak. Ayami. He gasped, she paid me to do it, said if anyone tried to help was to beat them up. Hiring shinobi to do your dirty work was one of the things we were taught recently. I released him and he fell on his ass, pressing hard against the tree trying to get away from me. They all fell the ground when I pulled back my killing intent, they were no longer the source of my wrath, Ami was. I looked up at the school building finding the window where my class basin section, some of the kunoichis were looking out the window horrified. I locked eyes with Ami, her purple hair was easy enough to spot, her brown widens in terror. Target lock. I marched back to the academy, I passed the onlookers that could only stare at me. I didn't see Naruto or Sasuke, which didn't help my temper. Hinata immediately tried to stop me once she realized I was out for blood. She kept saying how everything was fine and that Naruto wasn't that hurt, and she should have helped but was too shocked. She was only fanning the flames, Hinata should have been in a position to try and defend Naruto. They shouldn't have been a target to begin with, it was going to stop now. They wanted a fight, I'd give them a war. I slammed the door open, killing intent crept into the room clawing at the air around me. Suzume looked at me confused. Sakura-chan. She said in wonder, I didn't acknowledge her, my eyes on my target, Ami glared at me with a trembling frame. Is something the matter? I looked at the kunoichi sensei, the teachers in this academy knew everything that happens under its roof. They knew about Naruto's troubles and mine as well, but they did nothing about it. This too is training, they had said a shinobi needs to be unaffected by such childish taunts. I had half a mind to beat them senseless for their little speech, they were 2 rank higher than me though and I wasn't sure I could win. Anger boiling over and killing intent polluting the air, I step in front of the class. I think you are all disgusting bottom feeders that whine far too much and are unworthy of become a kunoichi. I stated boldly, it took 2 seconds for my words to sink in, but once they did there was an uproar. What did you just say? I clasped my face and wiggled, it's not fair, I said in a mocking voice. Why would Sasuke hang out with her? She's not even as cute as I am. My eyes became dark and my voice serious. You disgust me. Billboard for it. They stood snarling. All you ever do is whine about how unfair life is and how you should have what isn't yours. I deadpan. If you want my place at Sasuke's side so badly then take it. Hinata gasped in horror and everyone grew silent. I smirked, of course you'll have to fight for it. I said, I'll put you all in your place. I spread my arms wide. Anyone wanting my Sasuke is welcome to challenge me to a fight. In fact, why don't we make it a battle royally? I'll take you all on. I was drunk on bloodlust, anyone that treated my happiness was my enemy, I have a right to be selfish. They girls looked at each other conflicted, what's the matter, scared? I taunted. The room turned dark, storm clouds rolled in blocking the sun and setting the mood. Now you're speaking my language, Fuki, one of Ami's friends stood. I've always wanted slap that smug look off your face. Fuki was a tomboy that was convinced she could do anything boy could do. When she saw Sasuke compete with Naruto she fell in love, or so I've heard. You are getting a bit arrogant, Sakura-chan. Ino stood as did her gang. I had expected that, so no surprise there. Lightning flashed illustrating the room for but second, but it was enough to see the determination in her eyes. Heh, you're right Ino, let's put her in her place. The other girls seemed to get some courage and stood as well. Suzume sighed, muttering something under her breath. This was it. I had officially declared war on Sasuke's admirers. I won't have bothered with them, as they didn't matter had they not hurt Naruto. The sight of him grinning at covered in bandages Madeline blood boil. Who do you think you are? You think you're better than us, don't you? What's so special about you anyway? You're just a freak. Surrounded by enemies there, I cold and felt with disdain. I could only take it and hoped I lived through it. Never again, I snarled. It was almost the same. I was surrounded by enemies, people that wanted what I had and acting violent because they couldn't have it. I couldn't fight back then, but it isn't the same here. They could take what I had, they could take away my lullaby, hurt my sunshine, terrify my pearl. I wouldn't allow it. No one is going to touch what's mine. Chandra. Inner roared. They wanted a fight, I'll give them a war. Boom. Thunder clapped, shaking the ground. My smile was that of a predictor and I had a field of prey. Drip drip. Rain fell from the heavens, drenching our clothes and turning the playfield muddy. The boys sought shelter by the pillars, while the girls stupid enough to fight me stood on the field in the pouring rain. They formed a circle around me, boxing me in. I was outnumbered 30-1. Suzume-sensei, Irika pleaded, not for the first time. This is madness. One girl can't be exciting to fight so many, it's unreasonable. Suzume shook her head. It's not my call to make. She looked at him. Sakura was the one to challenge, its outlet my control. Sasuke and Naruto stood among the boys, Hinata with them, the only girl not trying to kill me. Sakura-chan. Naruto's voice was laced with worry. I hated when he beautiful blue eyes looked like that. It made me want to turn to him to assure him everything was okay. Sasuke was demanding an explanation from Hinata, but she could only shake her head. Sakura-chan is going to fight all of them. She paused alone, she added meekly. Sasuke looked horrified. He looked back at me, eyes wide. I winked at him. Suzume opened her umbrella and stepped onto the field in the pouring rain. She stopped a bit away from us. This is an all-out fight to the last man standing. Anyone unable continue due to heavy injury will be disqualified and taken to the infirmary. She stated, pointing at the nurse and her appreciates that stood with the students. Ready. My opponents inched forward as Suzume rose her hand high. Begin. A lightning flash accompanied the lower of her hand and they lounged at me. Chapter 6. The battlefield. When I fought Niji, I lacked battle experience, since fighting him had battled many times with Hinata, Naruto and Sasuke. I might not be a taijutsu master, but against children with no understanding of chakra control, I wouldn't need to be. As they jumped me, I couldn't help but compare them to tigers launching at their prey. I flipped, hands on the ground, and began to spin, performing a prefect, a helicopter. My heel connected with jaw, stomach, ribcage, shoulder blade, and a flat chest. 5 girls were sent flying backwards, colliding with the other girls as I right myself. A series of thuds and rolls followed their crash landing. I stood in the center of their scattered limbs. The 5 girls that took direct hit trembled but didn't get up. They looked at me wide-eyed, shock clear to see on their faces. There was a moment of pause. I remained still as they got to their feet, medics rushing to get the injured away. 5 down, 25 to go. A group of them attacked, breaking the calm. They attacked simultaneously, turning punches and kicks wildly. I stepped out of range of a pinch and below a kick. The others jumped in, all eager to get a hit in. With a short jump I spin and kicked out. They flew back from the force of my amateur leaf hurricane. Not giving them any time to recover, I lounged, elbowing one in the stomach while simultaneously kicking another in the chest. A spiky red hair landed a hit to my face. My cheeks burned, as did my temper. I grabbed her wrist and yanked her towards me. She stumbled, not expecting the pull, and I punched her square in the face. An instant KO. I dropped her and leaned away from another attack. Bob and weave, then retaliate. I followed the rhythm of the fight. I've never been in a catfight before, but I'd image it was similar to the battle before me. They didn't have techniques, style, or grace. Inflicting as much damage as they could was their only goal. They punched, kicked and clawed, going for my hair, big mistake, and face. They got a few hits in. It was nothing like Niji Slaughterfest, but it was irritating enough to have me fight harder. Like the merciless downpour they fell, one after the other like raindrops slashing on the ground. Their numbers dwindled and my bursts increased. I was panting when I was down to 5. Ino, Ami, Fuki, and the Candy twins. One had chocolate hair, the other strawberry. The eyes were mismatched brown and pink. I wasn't sure which one liked Sasuke or if it was both, but thinking about it only served to fuel my anger. I had no beef with Ino other than the same love interest, but Ami was going to get the main course. She was an arrogant coward that used others for her own end. Spoiled, thinking there's safety in numbers. I was going to take my time with her, I decided. Before I could muse about my torture methods, the twins attacked. They separated, going in opposite directions to circle around me. They stood on either side of me before charging at the same time. I muttered a curse as I blocked Chocolate's kick and Strawberry's punch. My arms shook from the impact, though nothing was broken. They retreated before circling me again and attacking once more. I blocked only to be attacked from above by Fuki. My hands were occupied, leaving me wide open. They wore the grin of a victory. I hadn't realized they were working together. Naturally, I had thought they saw each other as enemies as well. My mistake, it wasn't one I'd make again. For my own stupidity, I allowed the hit to land. It was the closest thing to kicking myself. Fuki delivered a punishing axe kick to my head. I had to grit my teeth against the pain. My back hit the ground, knocking the breath out of me, as rain pouring down on my face made it hard to see. I was thinking of how bad the Rain Village had it to always receive this awful weather when Ami stood over me, a smug look on her face. "Not so tough, now are you?" she taunted. I noted she only had mud on her and not berries. She wasn't fighting at all, was she? She stomped on my chest, causing me to gasp. How clique. But it's exciting, isn't it? We did beat the majority fairly easily. Now we're trapped under the enemy heel and must find the strength to keep fighting. A smile creeped onto my face. She was right as usual. This was fun. Fighting for love and justice. I couldn't help but chuckle. Who knew being in love could be this exciting? I gripped Ami's ankle and grinned up at her shocked expression. "Rule something, don't butt your foot in the lion's mouth," I said. I forcefully removed her foot, causing her to slip on the muddy ground, and spilled her crutch, touching the ground. How flexible. I flipped to my feet in time for the Candy twins to attack. I grabbed Strawberry's shirt and threw her into her sister. Fuki appeared out of nowhere, another axe kick at her, the ready. Bracing myself, I leaping up, meeting her halfway and decked her, sending her spiraling to the ground. I landed gracefully, my eyes locked on Ami. I was gonna enjoy this. My back exploded in pain. Stars flashed before my eyes as I fell to one knee. Slow reacting instinct had me rolling to the side before a kick stomped the ground I once knelt. I looked up at my attacker and paused dumbfounded. Ino stood glaring at me in the spot of my attacker. "I don't like to be ignored," she all but snarled at me. I was at a loss for words. Had I truly forgotten she was still conscious? I mentally slapped myself. I didn't see her as a treat and failed to respond to her malice. I truly hoped this wouldn't become a habit. I stood returning her glare. I glanced at Ami and winded. I wanted to beat her to a pulse though. Ino didn't give me any more time, charging at me like a wild boar. I moved to the side to avoid it, only to have her turn sharply and launched a kick at me. I backflipped out of range, putting some distance between us. She was fast, a trait I wasn't expecting. It was easy to forget she was the heir to her shinobi clan with how nice she acted. Ino remained on the offensive, never letting up in her pursuit. It may not have been a catfight, but there was no doubt it was a fight. Our fist clashed in a fight that was 6 years too early. Sakura! Ino roared as she charged again. It was in that moment I achieved enlightenment, with adrenaline rushing through my veins and bloodlust teasing my nose. I understood the reason people yell out their opponent's name. It was a battle cry, a promise of pain and utter defeat. It was exhilarating. Blow for blow one became lost in the spirit of war and bloodlust. In that moment the world disappeared, only your opponent remained. And what other way is there to show that than to shout their name? Ino! I yelled, dashing forward. We clashed heads, pain exploded behind my eyes, and once again I knew what it truly was to have a rival. The rain slowed to a drizzle as I panted heavily. My eyes still blazed with fighting spirit, a huge grin never leaving my face, even as I stared down at Ino's unconscious form. That fight amazing. While Niji it was more elegant and reminded me of a dance. Each move was calculated and executed with precision and accuracy. Fighting Ino, heck even the other girls, was a brawl. Punches were thrown because you were within range and it would hurt. Kicks were swung for long range and it hurt more. The entire fight was about causing damage and pain. I loved it. I caught movement in the corner of my eye even as nurses attended to Ino. Ami was still on the muddy field, frozen with shock. A dark grin adorned my lips. It seemed I'd get my revenge after all. I turned and strode over to her. Naturally she tried to flee. I tripped her and stepped on her back to keep her in place. Now then, I cooed, what was it you did? Ah yes, bullied Hinata and Naruto and coveted Sasuke. I'll be sure to put you in your place. She screamed out before I even stated beating on her. The clouds parted as I stared up at the sky. Ami laid battered and bruised under me. The adrenaline cooled and I was now calm. A soft smile even snuck its way onto my face. I looked over to the students to smile at them. My smile froze on my face. At the roof, the walls, and the ceiling of the academy were crowded with shinobis. I stretched my senses and found more in the surrounding trees, even in the earth. The thought of me being so distracted as to not sense so many was concerning. Sakura-chan. Naruto rushed toward me, Hinata and Sasuke close behind. He tackled me but I managed to stay upright somehow. That was amazing. He yelled, squeezing me tight. I groaned and awkwardly patted his back. He was hiding it well but I could sense his anxiety. I'm okay, I whispered in his ear. You idiot, let go, she's hurt. Sasuke pried a reluctant Naruto off me. Are you okay? Hinata asked, taking out an ointment. I gave her a reassuring smile. That's the power of youth for ya. I heard Might Guy praise. It seems the academy has some interesting students this year, Asuma said past his smoking cigarette. I can't wait to see the kunoichi. She becomes raven hair and scarlet eyes, Kurane said, smiling at our group. The Hokage chuckled as stood next to Iruka and Suzume. This was quite interesting to watch. He said, I'm glad to see the will of fire still burns bright. There were chuckles as the shinobis one by one began to disappear. The howl of a wolf had me spinning around. One dark eye greeted me. There in the tops of the tree stood a jonin with a mask and silver gray hair, one eye covered beneath his headband. He held my curious gaze for but a few seconds before he vanished in a poof of smoke. Son of the White Fang, creator of the Chidori, copycat ninja Kakashi Hatake has taken notice of you. I frowned at Inner's commentary. It was only inevitable that Kakashi would notice me. He was our future sensei, that was set in stone. A howling wolf, huh? The lightning wolf has appeared. Reiju. Exactly. Inner sounded too pleased with the comparison, though comparing him to the mythical beast wasn't far off. Reiju was a wolf-shaped lighting beast. The companion of the Shinto god of lighting, usually calm except during thunderstorms. Recalling the howl I heard from his chakra, I could help but grin. Our sensei was an alpha wolf. Oh. Ino recovered quickly thanks to some medical ninjutsu. She was still sore over losing, and that was a wound I couldn't heal. Sasuke to my horror approached her after she recovered. You fought well, he praised, even Hinata had trouble keeping up with her when she gets serious. He smiled at her and her cheeks flushed. You lasted longer than the others, if you keep training, I'm sure you'll be strong enough to challenge her. He turned to leave when Ino grabbed his wrist, her eyes wide. What do you mean challenge her? I put up one hell of a fight. She seemed offended. Sasuke was interrupted by Naruto, who spoke for him. Sakura-chan has seals on her arms that lower her strength by 80%. She didn't take them off when she fought, he explained proudly. Ino looked over at me, but I found something very interesting to stare at out the window. No way, she whispered, letting go of Sasuke's hand. I'm not sure why you fought her, but Sakura-chan likes you, Naruto continued. Ino looked at him in disbelief. Sakura hates me, she stated bluntly. Naruto chuckled. No, she doesn't. If she did, she wouldn't have healed you. Objection. I had only done that because I didn't want her father to come after me for bruising his only daughter's pretty face. There was also the worry of my mother ripping me a new one for fighting my playmate. She was friends with Ino's mother and they both valued beauty and ladylike manners. If she discovered I not only fought but against all the girl in Kunoichi class, she would kill me. Sasuke and Naruto returned to my side soon after saying farewells to Ino, sitting down in the seat in front of Hinata and I. Aniki and father haven't been getting along lately, he said, disappointed. I stiffened at his words, the implication clear. I'm worried. How long have this been going on? I asked. I needed a time frame. Since Shisui died last semester, he said, turning to look at me. That was a while ago, he clarified. We are currently in our second semester, so it happened over the break. I hadn't seen Ataka when I visited, so I assume it was going on even then. Say, Sasuke, how old are you now? I asked. He frowned, confused at my question, but answered anyway. I'm 7, he stated, and I internally cringed. 1 year, my math deduced. I had 1 year before the Sasuke I fell in love with would die an ugly death. I bit my lip, thinking up way to make full use of our time together. Nana, everyone, Naruto drew our attention. You guys wanna go to Ichiraku later? Of course. Hinata proclaimed, not wanting to give up spending time with Naruto and ramen. Sure, I can spend some time, Sasuke said, and I smiled. Everything was okay for now. Naruto's paying, I said playfully. He immediately tried to change my mind. I smiled through it all, even as my gusts twisted. 1 year, damn you Danzo.